Good evening. I'd like to call the June 27th, 2017 Longmont City Council meeting to order. This is a regular session. Could we please start with the roll call?
Yes, Mayor Coombs.
Here.
Council members Bagley.
Here.
Christensen. Here. Finley. Moore.
Here.
Peck. Here. And Santos. Here. Mayor Coombs, we have a quorum.
Okay, let's stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For some reason, Valerie, my side computer's not on, so all I have is an HTML file, or no signal. I don't know if you need to take a quick look at it. Okay. So anyone wishing to speak at first call, public invited to be heard, will need to add his or her name to the list outside the council chambers. Only those on the list will be invited to speak at first call, public invited to be heard. Speakers who do not place their name on the list will have an opportunity to speak at final call, public invited to be heard on any item at the end of the meeting. So now we have the June 13th regular session meetings to approve. So can I get a motion?
I move the June 13 meetings.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Let's vote. And that passes 6-0 with Councilmember Finley absent. Thank you. Good thing for tech support. So now we have, we're in section 4, Valerie. Are there any agenda revisions?
No, Mayor Coombs, there are not.
Okay. Councilmember Christensen.
I have two things. I received today, and I think most of us received today, something from UC Health talking about a new initiative that they are kind of spearheading, I believe, along with many other Front Range hospitals having to do with the opioid epidemic. And I think some of us went to the CML discussion on the opioid epidemic. And this is the first initiative I've seen that actually focuses on doctor and hospital responsibility for this epidemic and how to address it. So I would urge our city to get involved with this and be supportive of this. Secondly, I would like to see a public update by either the director or the head of the Longmont Housing Authority on their investigation of the incidents that took place a while ago. And I would like that to be, since this took place a while ago, I would like this to be put forth by the 18th of July, if that's possible.
What exactly are we asking them to put forth?
Just give us a public update on the progress of their investigation.
Okay.
This did a huge amount of damage to Longmont as a city, our reputation, and although they are not under our direct supervision, we do appoint them, and they do take public money, and I do think that they need to take some responsibility for informing us about what's going on with the investigation, to inform the public about it.
Is there anybody else that want to weigh in or have any comments about it? Councilmember Peck?
Thank you. Actually, I think that's a good idea. I would like to know what's going on with him. I know that the director was on vacation until Monday, so Michael Reese, so he should be back, just to know where they are with that investigation.
Okay, but how do we know how far, if they're along far enough to report anything or not?
That would be part of the report.
Okay, they could just say
Yep.
nothing to report?
Yep.
Okay. Councilmember Bagley?
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I obviously it's an issue for the city, and my understanding is we currently have, at least for the city of Longmont's responsibility in this issue, Weld County is currently investigating and conducting an independent investigation. So as far as that goes, no deadlines, no interference. Independent means independent.
Right.
And then as far as the Longmont Housing Authority goes, I don't know about the rest of you, but obviously at least two, that I think that we should definitely have an update. However, we're not their boss. We don't have any purview. Other than appointing the board of directors, we don't control their finances. They don't report to us. We're not their boss. So, I mean, I think it would be appropriate just to, which I believe, Harold, you are in contact with them, correct? Do you know, I think the appropriate thing to do is just to ask, where are we at? Have we heard from them? What's going on? And do you know anything?
So I haven't heard from him. I had a brief call late last week, but with no specifics. And so I can, on behalf of the council, ask the question and then bring that information back.
I think that would
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, is there, I guess we're on section 5. Is there a report from the city manager?
Yes, Mayor. I'm going to ask Jim Golden to come up and give a quick report on the bond sale that occurred.
Okay.
Mayor Coombs, members of council, I'm Jim Golden, Director of Finance. So as the city manager stated, we did have a bond sale this morning for the electric and broadband enterprise bonds. We had a principal amount on sale of $7,265,000, and we had a sale to Hutchinson Shockey Early and Company out of Chicago. We had 10 bids that we received. It was a very competitive sale. The interest rate we received was 2.2678%, which was well below what our projections were, which we were using about a 2.9% projection. So our payments will range from $717,000 to $747,000 per year, and it's a 12-year bond, as we reported earlier. The bidder did request that there'll be an insurance policy. It's at their own cost. They chose to do that. So that actually raised the rating from the A rating that we received from Standard & Poor's on the bond as it stood alone to a AA type of credit. So that was involved in the interest rate of their bid. And finally, the net amount of proceeds that we received, along with the premium that we asked to be bid, we will have about $7.65 million for the completion of the broadband project.
Okay.
Thanks.
So now we're on to the special report. So the city is accepting a Certificate of Achievement Award and presenting the GFOA Award of Financial Reporting Achievement to the accounting divisions for its work which was instrumental in the CAFRE being awarded this Certificate of Achievement. And Jim Golden will tell us all about the great work that the city does.
Thanks, Mayor Coombs. So as you read, the city did receive the GFOA's Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for its 2015 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. It's the highest form of recognition in governmental accounting and financial reporting. It's a significant accomplishment for the city and its management and the finance department. We received that award for 36 consecutive years. I think that's always a factor in the type of bond ratings that we received in the past, along with other factors that are also considered. But as well, the financial report qualifying for a certificate provides a detailed vehicle by which market analysts, investors, potential investors, and creditors and others may assess the attraction of government securities compared to other governments or other investments. So in a close bond rating call, the availability of a CAFR meeting certificate requirements can make a difference on the positive side of the scale. It's judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program and demonstrate a constructive spirit of full disclosure. So tonight, as the mayor stated, the city's accepting the Certificate of Achievement Award. We're also presenting the GFOA Award of Financial Reporting Achievement to the Accounting Division. And Deanne Hansen is our accounting manager. She's here tonight to accept that award. But along with Deanne, there are a number of other folks involved in the preparation of the 2015 CAFR as well as the 2016 CAFR that you are receiving tonight. Others included Keith Hobson, Ben McDonald, Kim Klug, and this year's report, Sammy Colson has also been addition to the staff who worked on the 2016 report. So with that, Mayor, if we could maybe, if you could bring that certificate forward, and I'll bring the plaque up. Maybe we can get a picture.
Where is it? Here it is. It's here somewhere. Now, presentation of the City of Longmont's comprehensive annual financial report and independent audit for 2016.
So, Mayor, I'll introduce this item as well. Tonight, along with Deanne here tonight, and she again is she takes the lead in getting this financial report completed, and so she's here to answer any questions as well as to help present if necessary. We also have Paul Niedermuller from the accounting firm of Clifton Larson Allen, and they are the independent auditors for our 2016 CAFR. So Clifton Larson Allen has reviewed the city's internal controls, and based on that, they did make one suggestion for improvement that the staff did include a response to that within your packet tonight. The city puts together the CAFR itself, and the auditors are involved in reviewing and making recommendations, but the full responsibility for compiling the CAFR is on the end of the city. CAFR is prepared in a dual perspective reporting format, so it includes both fund-based fiscal accountability and then citywide operational accountability. So you'll find individual funds, combined funds, as well as government-wide financial statements within the CAFR, which is why it is such a thick document. Includes 4 sections. The introductory section has the letter of transmittal within it. That's from the city manager and myself. The financial section includes the management's discussion and analysis, kind of the highlights of the report. And then it has the citywide financial reports and the notes to the financial statements. Then we have a statistical section with demographic and financial information that is unaudited. And then a compliance section that includes our schedule of expenditures of federal awards, and also includes the associated audit reports that go along with that. We highlighted in the communication major footnotes of interest would be Note 5, which is covering the city's investments. Note 9 is the city's long-term debt. And Note 17 is the city's future retirement benefits. We also included within your communication some summary of financial information for our major operating funds. We've included fund balances or retained, or I should say working capital balances for proprietary type funds as well. So with that, that's kind of a brief summary, but I'm going to now turn it over to Paul, and he's going to present the auditor's report and comments.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of City Council. Paul Niedermulder with the audit firm Clifton Lorson Owen. And again, as Mr. Golden alluded to, we have a very, very short presentation prepared, as well as the reports within the financial statements. So we get a few letters within the document. It starts on page 19. And I just wanted to bring to your attention, you received an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion in all material respects. So again, congratulations to the City of Longmont for receiving a clean audit opinion for 2016. There's also two other opinions within your financial statement document. Those relate to being a recipient of federal awards. The City of Longmont received roughly $16 million of federal awards in 2016 and spent, and we reviewed 3 of those programs. Again, very happy to report in all the regulatory compliance that we're required to do with the federal government, you did not have any type of compliance or internal control over compliance findings noted within that document, and as reflected within your comprehensive financial report starting on page 258. Also within your council packet is our communication to governance, just to kind of give you a synopsis of what transpired during the audit process, i.e. any disagreements, any change in accounting pronouncements, any estimates that went into preparing the financial statements. I am not going to go over those in detail, but I just wanted to bring that as the reason behind that letter, separately addressed letter to council, is to understand all of those things. So on a positive note, there were no disagreements, there was no opinion shopping, and anything that we're required to report to you directly if that was a contrary statement. So there were things that we noted, and as it was alluded to by the finance director, and at this point we would be happy to address any questions from council.
Any questions about the report? Job well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I think now we need to give direction to accept the report. Councilmember Santos?
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I move that we accept the 2016 Comprehensive Annual Fiscal Report.
Second. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Let's vote. We still need someone to vote. Yeah, it's working for me, but someone is... We've only got 5 votes and we need 6. Okay, I guess, can you just tell us which way you voted? Okay. Okay. Then it passes 6-0 with Councilmember Finley absent. Okay. So now we have the Longmont Juvenile Justice Redirection Project presentation, and I believe our Judge Robert Frick is here to make that presentation.
And I'm waiting. I'll wait for the rest of the team to get here in just a moment. Say good evening, Mayor Coombs, Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm Judge Robert Frick, your municipal judge here for the City of Longmont. Tonight, I have an opportunity and privilege to talk about, to make some introductory remarks regarding Longmont's Juvenile Justice Redirection Project. This is kind of an information for the City Council here tonight, and what we're branding Rewind Longmont. And so this is kind of a new approach for juvenile justice. This is to build upon our existing restorative justice programs and other programs that the city currently uses. And essentially, in a nutshell, we're looking to assess for services when a juvenile commits a criminal act in a closer proximity to when that event occurred, to bring community partners together, to assess for services, to determine what's in the best interest of that child at that first instinct. We're looking for a quicker, faster intervention into a child's life to help not only improve behavior modification, but assess and bring stability to that child's life. the principles of restorative justice, but also addressing mental health concerns and substance abuse concerns that we're seeing on a daily basis. When time passes, the longer time passes from an incident, the greater chance for recidivism, the greater chance for further criminal activity, or the greater chance for further instability in a child's life. And what we're trying to utilize is within existing city resources to get that child into a place of stability sooner, quicker, faster in the process. And it's irregardless of what ultimately happens in the criminal process, but more directly, again, to bring stability in that child's life. And the ultimate goal here is to modify criminal behavior, divert juveniles out of the criminal justice system, and bring long-lasting stability to a child's life. With that, I will be available for questions, but I'd like to kind of turn it over to staff. But while I have you, since I have your attention, just to let you know, I had an opportunity to present at CML this past Friday regarding Colorado's quality of life courts. Myself and Judge Ann Stavik of Lakewood made that presentation to CML, and I thought it was well received, but I just wanted you to be aware of that. With that, I will turn it over to our team.
Well, thanks for representing us so well at CML.
Well, thank you.
So I'm Kathy Sanner. I'm with the Longmont Police Department. I'm part of the Rewind team that's kind of doing these assessments. If you'll look at the data that's up there right now, I'm not going to read it to you, but the top data was provided from municipal probation and the amount of cases they've handled from 2013 to 2016, and then restorative justice provided the next set of boxes with what they have provided when we're talking about juveniles. Currently, if a juvenile is contacted in a criminal offense, they go referred to the police, and then it either goes to municipal court or restorative justice, and our hope is that just like Judge Frick was talking about, they would be referred to the police and then to an assessment. And then from there, we're going to divert them with whatever their needs are at that time. So hopefully we don't have these juveniles back in the system. I've spent most of my career working in schools as a school resource officer, and I can tell you there's nothing better than if we can keep those kids and get the needs met early versus later. And I go back to the GRIT program, which realized that and started moving downward with where they started putting their resources in to help youth. And I hope that this program, I think it's going to be awesome. So I'm going to turn it over next to Christina Pacheco.
Good evening, Mayor Combs, members of Longmont City Council. I'm Christina Pacheco Sims, Division Manager with Children, Youth, and Families in the Community Services Department. Tara Johnson, Chief Municipal Probation Officer, is also here to answer any questions that you may have. As Judge Frick and Kathy talked about, with regards to this model, internally within the city, we've been working on this process about a year and looking at what it takes to implement this by first leveraging our internal city resources. We applied principles of lean process improvement to examine what we can do differently to support this, streamline processes, and increase productivity within this model. We also have brought together nonprofits and other youth-serving organizations to create an implementation team that helps to develop and roll out this model. This is a different way of doing business, and we want to leverage all of our community resources. The model we develop supports access to interventions for families earlier, as Judge Frick mentioned, and it's the best effort at really looking underneath what is going on to hopefully make an impact sooner so that juveniles don't get further into the system. And as you'll note, within this model, where's the pointer? The red one? The red? Oh, the mouse. There we go. Okay, so if you'll look at this intervention block, the goal is really to get youth out of the system from the time they have contact with an officer within 6 months. Essentially, the juvenile will have contact with the officer. They'll be referred into a process where they're provided with interventions that meet their needs. And we're going to talk about the assessment process a little bit in the next slide. What we are starting with this pilot phase is juveniles from 10 to 17, but we are not going to be taking traffic, sex crimes, domestic violence, felony charges, or cases that have bond conditions. And again, focusing on that 10 to 17. The other major component are these purple circles here. This is our unified case planning, and this is a partnership between children, youth, and families, police, probation, courts, potentially other youth-serving organizations, and Boulder County Impact. Boulder County Impact has been doing this work, this best practice model since 1994 when SB 94 was passed and that was implemented, and that really was meant to keep youth out of the foster care system. So we feel like we have a really good model and a nationally recognized model in our partnership with Boulder County Impact. So they've been an integral partner in this. So next, we want to talk about the risk offense model. This is a research-based intervention model that we've been working on, and we're developing this, again, with our implementation team. The goal is to create an objective-based decision-making strategy for managing youthful status and law violators referred to the Rewind program. This matrix allows professionals to link juveniles with different offense types and risk potentials as indicated by their score in the assessment that I'm going to talk about. It's linked to graduated sanctions, and they're intended to reduce the likelihood of reoffending. So the degree of invasiveness or involvement of recommended sanctions really falls within different ranges based on their risk level. So it's this, their risk level here, low, medium, and high, and their group of offenses. So Tara Johnson, our Chief Probation Officer, has consulted with our city prosecutor and really looked at the municipal charges that fall into this program and group them into 3 different offenses, Group 1, Group 2, and Group 3. So the implementation team is now going through the process of creating, in this green, yellow, and red area where it says draft what those sanctions will look like. So once we complete the assessment, we'll know what the needs are, and if a juvenile is low, medium, or low, moderate, or high risk, and then we'll be able to kind of cross-reference that with which group of offenses that they are being charged with, or that they are getting a summons when they have police contact. So as I mentioned, the implementation team continues to work on this process, and we, at this point, are meeting every 2 weeks. So with that, we wanted to prepare kind of an overview for you all, and we're here to answer any questions that you may have.
Councilmember Peck?
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. Christina, how does this work with restorative justice? Is this a redefinition of restorative justice? Is Rewind different than what the restorative justice? I'm a little confused as to how that works together.
Councilmember Peck, Mayor Combs, what this is actually is an intervention that will provide more information through the restorative justice process. Restorative justice is actually one of the interventions that we would use. If you look back to this slide here, the top 5 interventions that we are focusing on are, first and foremost, Longmont Community Justice Program, the RJ programs.
Okay.
We're looking at really assessing for that mental health. We want to look at substance abuse, use and abuse as part of this. There's also, we have parent engagement classes that we can implement, and the intent is really, as Judge Frick said, to intervene sooner and get kids out of the system faster and pull those community resources. So it's not going to take the place of restorative justice, but it is going to work in conjunction with.
So it's kind of, the way I'm interpreting it, it's kind of like an expansion of restorative justice, moving it further in a way. By giving more resources.
Right, correct.
Okay.
The clients through restorative justice are going to have access to the other services, be it mental health, be it substance abuse. We may have some youth that come into the program that are low risk, for example, and they get a curfew ticket. So we know that if a kid is low risk and there is a curfew ticket, it's still against the law to have a curfew ticket, but they probably don't need to go through the whole process, so they would get a one-time class and then be dismissed.
That makes sense. Thank you.
I think also, if you go back to one of the earlier slides, the way it currently works with RJ is that the police officer has the interaction with the individual and makes the decision to go RJ municipal court. This is a little bit different in that they have the interaction and they have the summons, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what it really does then is it goes into the impact model or the assessment team, and they assess the whole individual, for lack of a better description, and then they determine what's really needed. RJ is one of the things that they can then push to, or they may find that there's a substance abuse issue or a mental health issue, and they can push into those directions. And in some cases, as we've talked about, if you have someone that has substance abuse issues, for example, sometimes you may want to push them into the substance abuse treatment, and then they go into RJ once they have a handle on the substance abuse piece.
Right. I think the other thing that it does is potentially open up that opportunity for cases that maybe hadn't been considered RJ, that there is that screening portion of this where that could potentially happen.
Councilmember Santos.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. So you guys got to, I think I really do like this. I've always been in favor of restorative justice. So you've talked to the other non-for-profits and got everyone together. My only question is, as we hear from residents all the time, when, besides tonight, when would be a public rollout of having this? Rhythm on the River, things of that nature, I think, come to mind, because some folks say, often, what is restorative justice? And trying to explain that to them, but also now adding another component within the city, I think needs a greater explanation to the residents at large that this is what we do to try to keep kids out of the system. So it's just a suggestion, but I do really like this, and hopefully we'll have some sort of public rollout here real soon.
Councilmember Santos, Mayor Combs, yes, that's definitely part of the plan. What we have looked at this point is the date that we want to implement, that we want to roll out, and now we're in the process of kind of backtracking or reversing that process and saying, okay, what are the essential meetings that we need to have? So council was one. There also was a group of individuals that Chief Butler called together early in the process that were part of kind of the brainstorming of this. So we're going to have that component. The other thing that we've talked about is an editorial in the paper. Community presentations. We've started to outline, where are those spots in the community that we want to give that education and that information so that rollout is successful.
All right. Well, you guys have got it.
Thank you.
Well, sounds like you got it done. Thank you.
Councilmember Bagley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. First of all, awesome program. I was part of that initial debate session, and you basically had two philosophies. First of all, you've got the philosophy of children are children, and we don't lock up and punish children for crimes, especially when the data show that recidivism, decreases exponentially the more you keep them out of the system. And then you have you also had a constituency of hardliners that basically said domestic violence, sexual assault, and crimes of violence, shootings, stabbings, etc., regardless of the age. We as a society need to send a message that we take this seriously. Now, forget that debate for a second. The other category of crimes listed in 1, 2, and 3, if you could go back to that colored. Okay, so my question is it my understanding, let's assume that we've got a child either in group 1, group 2, or group 3, right? And whatever process you use they are high risk. When I see the word court fees and assessment, and probation, I'm assuming they've gone through some type of adjudication, some type of court process. Is that later dismissed? Is that akin to deferment? Is it deferred prosecution? I mean, what is it? I guess that's a question for our resident legal mind.
And then I can talk about how we're going to look at that sliding scale piece of things. So I can.
Okay.
So to answer your questions, the idea is, first off with this assessment process, this is pre-court, this is pre-arraignment, this is pre-adjudication, the idea.
Okay.
So for all of this, but the ultimate goal is if they're successful in this diversion, for lack of a better terms, in whatever capacity it looks like, ultimately the case is going to be dismissed. And as you're aware, effective August 1st, the municipal court will have the ability to seal its own records, which has never existed historically. So that's part and parcel with this. Now, a juvenile or any individual could ultimately decide that, I'm going to go to court. This is my right. I want to plead not guilty.
Right.
I want to set up a trial. So that process is still in place. There's nothing changing about that. And if they elect to go to arraignment, well, that's their right to do so. And if they decide to go through the entire process, including trial, absolutely.
Blanket legal advice, don't do that.
Well, exactly.
The stupid legal move.
So hopefully that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
Judge, will you talk a little bit about what happens if they don't complete it?
So there's a kind of a catch for that. Go ahead if you want to.
So anyway, if a juvenile decides for whatever reason, or an individual goes through a process and they wash out, and for whatever reason decide they're not going to do it, that they're still presumed innocent. And it's at that point in time that, in coordination with the city attorney's office and the prosecution, then a regular traditional court process begins. It starts with arraignment, and then it goes through that process, and ultimately can be successful at the back end as well. Meaning, if somebody is ultimately convicted through the normal course of business, they go through the probation services. They get these similar types of treatment options open to them. Just because someone elects not to do it in a pre-arraignment process doesn't mean that those resources are still not available. Using our evidence-based practices in order to help reduce recidivism, change criminal thinking, et cetera.
Thank you.
And there is the potential that, say they decide to take the non-assessment route and talk with the city prosecutor. What's built into this model is that if they change their mind at that point, because we often know that juveniles do, and parents of juveniles, parents of adolescents often do that, that we can get that referral back through the prosecutor into the assessment process. So there's a couple of safety catches in there. You wanted to add something?
Yes, I'd also, good evening. This is my first time addressing council. I'm honored to do so.
Great.
Thank you. I'm doing really good, huh? So basically what I also wanted to add is that for the youth that do end up on probation, for whatever these reasons that happen, probation is also is obligated and determined to provide the same services that we're trying to provide in this model. So we still want to meet the needs of the juvenile. At whatever stage we finally get to connect with them and they're open to hearing some ideas, even if it's in the probation stage. So we still will be using the same interventions and programs.
Thank you. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I guess I just have one question. That's, are we coordinating with our other law enforcement agencies? For example, a Longmont teen commits some crime outside of city limits. Are they going to be able to still go through this process, or vice versa? If some teen commits something in Longmont and they live in another jurisdiction, are we able to coordinate these efforts so that we have more consistency around the immediate region?
Councilmember Moore, Mayor Combs, we have not consulted with law enforcement outside of the city of Longmont. Maybe that is a step in the future. Right now, we're concentrating on what we can control, essentially. And if a youth is has contact, for example, lives in Frederick, has contact with a Longmont police officer, we still would, their case is still within the City of Longmont purview, so they still would be able to access these resources. We had a discussion today in our implementation team meeting. What if there is a youth from Bennett that comes and is here with a parent, has contact with a Longmont police officer? They still would be run through the process, but where that changes is how we match services up for that juvenile when they go back home. So that's the piece that will change a little bit. But if they have the opportunity to get services within the City of Longmont, and I'm thinking in particular the Tri-Town area, with the work that we're doing around marijuana impacts, there's a really good partnership there, and we'll be able to kind of wrap those juveniles with services, at least in that area for now.
All right, thank you.
I think part of it, too, you get into the jurisdictional issues.
Right.
That's what we were just talking about, and so that comes into play. We talked a little bit about what Boulder County is doing with the impact, but in terms of a program like this, we're not aware of any other jurisdiction doing this. I think what we hope is that if we're successful, when we're successful at doing this, that this actually becomes a program that other municipalities want to replicate because of the impact that we're having on the youth within our community. And at that point, I think then the coordination really can start coming into play. But this is something we're really first or second at. First, if you really take the full breadth of this. Second, if you include, we're using the impact model that Boulder's kind of using. Some other jurisdictions outside of the Colorado have done something similar, but I don't know if anyone's really doing this.
Right. We are tomorrow, actually, or Thursday, going to visit the LINK program in Thornton. It sounds like they have a community-based assessment center as well, and so we're also, while we have several parallel processes going, we're also looking at best practices just across the county, across the state, and so that's one of the, with the proximity of Thornton, we want to take a look at that program.
I think as a side note too, one of the things that they've also scheduled meetings with the school district, because we also know that a lot of times the individuals that we interact with, they're also interacting with those individuals, and so there's been conversations with the school district of how do we come together and work collectively on where we're both seeing the same thing.
Right, and you'll see different points within the model. So if you look here, there's three pieces that we've addressed through the model. So the first piece is when we do the advisement and we talk to families about the program, when we orient them. We also want to talk about the school responsibility that they have, or that the school has to have a safe environment, and want to kind of talk about it there and drive that point home. There, and then also communication back to the school on shared cases or cases that are dismissed through our process. And then the third piece where the school is a part is around threat assessments that are done. And we've done a lot of work around how that process works with our school resource officers, and we want to make sure that they are in any of those threat assessments that the school is doing.
Awesome. Councilmember Peck.
Thank you. This is a great program. I really like it. I do have a question. I thought it was answered, but when you brought up the school, it brought up something else for me. When you say that you're working on shared cases, are teens or juveniles only in this process once they've had direct contact with police? For example, if the school sees through counseling a child going down that path, is that a different process than this?
They would have had contact with the school resource officer, and that's how they would access the model.
Okay, great. That answered it. Thank you.
Well, I think I can speak for the entire council that I think this is a great program, and we look forward to the full rollout of it. And I'm sure when you do this, you'll find some things that work better than others. So, always feel free to, there's taking 2 steps forward and half a step back when you need to. And But I'm excited. It's always better to be working on the intervention part and prevention part than it's a lot cheaper and more effective. So I'm excited. Thank you for presenting this.
Mayor, if I can jump in.
Sure.
One of the things I also want to say is one of the things that we've been doing is we've been having internal training programs talking about inside the box, and it's part of the cultural training that we've been doing within the organization. And really the intent of that is how do we work together across departments within an organization. And I had the opportunity to present that today. And this is actually one of the programs that I talked about, because what we had is we had 3 different departments that came together and said, how do we utilize our existing resources to develop a program that can make a fundamental change. And so I just wanted to commend them on their work, because, and the city attorney's office was also involved in that as well. But what they did is they came together to say, how do we change our program and how do we maximize our resources? And that's really what we're trying to do organization-wide. So they did a great job in pulling all of this together.
Okay, great. I guess now it's time for public invited to be here. Do you have the list, Valerie?
Thanks, Harold.
Okay. So please state your name and address for the record before you begin speaking. And the first person on the list is Mike Chamberlain.
I think they were going to put up a thing on the screen.
Oh, okay.
Please don't start my time until this gets up.
She won't.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sure it'll scroll for you.
Okay. Can they put it on this one too? I'm kind of embarrassed to be on a camera.
Unfortunately, this one stays at...
Oh, okay.
This one stays on you.
Okay, let me take a deep breath here. And okay, I'm back again, and it's Mike Chamberlain, 518 East 16th Avenue, Longmont, Colorado. Mayor Combs, council members, thank you for your response from all of us who enjoy this greenway every day. At this time, and that's the Rough and Ready Greenway between Mountain View and Alpine. At this time, I'd like to request that the watering schedule and mowing standards be kept to the same frequency and standards as was agreed to by the mayor of Longmont in 2006 and continued through to the fall of last year until this is resolved. There seems to be some kind of disconnect here between the city council and city management. I've seen this firsthand in the past and would appreciate an open discussion to work to resolve it now. It appears council has not been getting the full story from city management. It also appears truths are being distorted and spun unethically, misleading us as well as you ladies and gentlemen of this council. At this time, I would like to ask the City of Longmont for an independent investigation into the Director of Community Development at that time and any others who may have been involved in this matter now and then. And please, if there are any questions that any of you have over the contents of the information I've given you thus far, I'll be happy to go over it with you in more detail. And where am I at? More detail. Anyway, sorry? Finally, at least for this 3 minutes anyway, I would like to invite all who are near or use all of the greenways to let us know what you think the stories you've been told by the city management. Email Mike Chamberlain at Comcast.net. That's Chamberlain with a Y. Also, I plan to speak my 3 minutes at each council meeting hereafter, where I'll try to make this clear to you, Mayor, council members, the 140 constituents promised but jerked around for 12 years, and any others affected by this. That's all the greenways in Longmont. Note, never mind that. I'm not a candidate. I'm not doing any of this. I just want somebody to be honest with this and continue this throughout. Thank you.
John Coe.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. John Coe, 1899 3rd Avenue. I shared with you a letter that I received from an attorney regarding the annexation that was performed by the county 20 years ago. I won't go into it in any great detail, but I shared it with you to give you a little flavor of the situation. I think it was a little visceral, but I'll just go on to, I've talked to Councilmember Peck and briefly to Councilmember Bagley, very interested in resolving this alleyway to 25-foot. Also, I had a chance to talk to one of the city engineers, and there's a little bit of a drainage issue along this side of the street as well. There's no drainage between Arapahoe and clear down to Hover. And in the wintertime, that becomes quite a bit ice sheet. And so that seems like it might also be addressed at this time. But for those of you who are connected with me on Facebook, I've sent you 3 pictures, and I'd be glad to send them by another means if that'd be more convenient. I wasn't able to connect with Councilmember Santos, but I'd be glad to get these pictures too, or to invite any of you over to see the situation. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Susan Summers.
Hi, Susan Summers, 1418 Galilee Lane here in Longmont. I'm here tonight to comment on the Great Western Flex Prairie Dog Relocation Plan. As we are by now all aware, Longmont Code 150503OG9 states that black-tailed prairie dogs inhabiting a development site shall be relocated. This code also states that a relocation plan shall be approved by the city. This code does not state that the relocation plan must be submitted by the developer. Prairie Protection Colorado has been working for 2 months on a relocation plan for the prairie dogs on the Great Western Flex site. We have secured a relocation site at Rocky Flats. We have contracted with a relocator, Growing Ideas, who has submitted a wild-to-wild relocation plan to the developer and to the city. In contrast, the developer hired Western Ecological to complete a good faith effort on a potential relocation of these prairie dogs. On May 9th, Prairie Protection Colorado informed Western Ecological that we had found a receiving site at Rocky Flats. Western Ecological took no action on this information. We reached out repeatedly to Western Ecological about this receiving site, yet they never contacted Rocky Flats. On May 25th, at the urging of Prairie Protection Colorado, David Lucas, manager of Rocky Flats, contacted Western Ecological and informed them that he would in fact take these prairie dogs for relocation. Western Ecological and Sun Construction have had over 6 weeks to submit a relocation plan to the city, yet they've done nothing. If Western Ecological and Sun Construction had any interest in submitting a relocation plan for these prairie dogs, they would have done so by now. They have had every opportunity. The Humane Society of the United States recommends 2 relocators here in Colorado. Growing Ideas is one of them. We have not come this far to watch these prairie dogs die at the hands of exterminators who are clearly not interested in relocating these prairie dogs, nor are they experienced in wild-to-wild relocations. We have been fighting this battle for weeks now. This development may end up being delayed as this process drags on, and no one wants to see this happen. The city needs to accept the relocation proposal submitted by Growing Ideas and let this process move forward immediately so that the development can begin and the prairie dogs have the best chance at survival in their new home at Rocky Flats. Thank you.
Thank you. Anna Rivas.
Hi, my name's Anna Rivas, and I live at 4501 Nelson Road, Unit 2306. And I, too, am here as a Longmont resident and an advocate for the Great Western Flex Building Prairie Dogs. With the expectation that the city will enforce the existing policy, since the receiving site is already confirmed, I want to point out another important detail. I don't know if any of you have heard of the horrors of wildlife smuggling. Wild animals are brought in or taken from the wild and smuggled to other places for money. It's an extremely lucrative business with money rather than the safety and well-being of the animals they are transported being the driving force. Since the well-being of the animals is not a primary concern, many animals die before they reach their destination or shortly thereafter due to the trauma they suffered in the process. So if you had animals you needed to transport and were concerned primarily with their well-being, would you want to utilize someone who specialized in smuggling, or would you prefer someone who specialized in the safe transport of animals? The way I see it, hiring a company who specializes in extermination to do a prairie dog relocation would be similar to hiring a smuggler to transport animals. Exterminators have no qualms about stuffing burrows full of poison and then sealing them, knowing that full well that the animals are going to die a slow and torturous death. The animal's well-being is not something that concerns them. What concerns them is that they get paid for doing the job. It's possible that all the animals would survive the relocation. But if the well-being of the prairie dogs is the driving force, it makes more sense to hire someone who specializes in safely and humanely relocating prairie dogs instead of hiring someone who is fine with brutally killing them for profit. Therefore, I would ask that a genuine and reputable prairie dog relocator is used when, and I'm really hoping it happens, the prairie dogs are relocated. Thank you.
Thank you. Charles Cutler.
My name is Charles Cutler. I live at 6391 West 60th Avenue in Arvada, former resident of Longmont. And first of all, us advocates, I'm here to speak for the prairie dogs too. We don't know where we stand. I know this council has received hundreds of emails and calls from advocates and not one response as far as I know. Now, I don't know why this is and why we're kept in the dark. I mean, with all the issues that need the attention of this council, saving the lives of this community of prairie dogs that have the same right to life that all of you do, does not have to be this difficult. Mr. Bagley, you told us a few weeks ago that Longmont must follow the law. We don't see that happening. But we do see the town spending $2,000 to $5,000 on a third-party review of the alleged good faith effort of the developer to relocate this colony. And as you know, you just heard, Prairie Protection Colorado has presented a relocation plan to the developer and the city and secured a relocation site for the colony at Rocky Flats. It's a done deal. You know, I've heard that the city will demand a relocation plan for the developer, but we just don't know. And I hope that you do comment on it, whether it's now or at the end of this meeting. Thank you.
Carol Murray.
Good evening, Mayor Coombs, members of the City Council. I'm here tonight to urge the Council to follow the City Code that provides for the relocation of the prairie dogs, specifically that 300-member colony in the path of the Great Western Flex development. An alternative home has been found for them. There no longer remains any question of where they could go. Moving forward, I hope the Council will respond to numerous phone calls, letters, and petitions to make this relocation occur in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Dyke.
Karen Dyke, 708 Hayden Court. Mayor Coombs and council members, I wanted to let you know some good news on renewable energy. Yesterday, a bipartisan group of mayors from across the country unanimously voted to support a resolution for 100% renewable energy by 2035. This was at the U.S. Conference of Mayors in Miami. Over 250 mayors were in attendance and voted unanimously to support this commitment. This conference represents 1,481 member cities, or 42% of the population of the U.S. What this means is that mayors, whether they are Democrat, Republican, or unaffiliated, recognize the benefits of moving to 100% renewable energy. The lists of benefits include decreasing pollution, mitigating climate change, job creation, decreased energy rates, and fuel sources for electricity generation that will never run out or increase in price. An additional 300 mayors have signed on to meet the climate goals in the Paris Accords. Thank you, Mayor Coombs, for signing on. On a local note, the City Council in Pueblo reaffirmed their commitment to 100% renewable energy last night while they signed on to the Paris Accords. The local team working towards renewable energy had a very well-attended launch party. The support of speakers, including local leaders like Joan and Polly, and state officials Foote, Jones, and Singer, is very appreciated. We will continue to educate the community on the benefits of moving to 100% renewable energy over the summer. We will continue to work with local groups and other communities who receive electricity from PRPA. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Richard Rubin.
My name's Rich Rubin. I live at 1122 Olympia Avenue. Been a Longmont resident for a little over a year, and I got to say, my wife feels like she's on vacation every day, even though she works full-time, so very, very happy here. Live across the street from a colony of prairie dogs whose fate is, at this point, indeterminate. My history before I emigrated from New York was as an attorney, and I did a lot of work with real estate development of many kinds and environmental remediations of many kinds, and my last, I guess, denouement out of New York was tilting at a windmill and winning against a multinational operator of a landfill up there and preventing, at the Court of Appeals level, a clay mine from being built in a residential area. What I think is very important here is the commercial aspect of relocating these prairie dogs. It's goodwill for both the tenant and the landlord. I realize it's a multi-use building, and it's primarily a tenant. Creative Learning Systems, it's a STEM tenant. They deal with science and technology, which presumably includes environmental sciences. That the cost in light of a 13-acre development, which if the first parcel is any indication, should include up to maybe 200,000 square feet of building space, the cost is almost immaterial. It needs to be borne by the developer in good faith on a one-time basis. It's not that complicated, and this council can act as a guide toward responsible relocation of these creatures in the future. I'm perfectly willing to be of help as a consultant. I still have a New York license. I will get one here shortly. But in any case, I built or represented over 140 projects of residential, commercial, also healthcare. This is not unusual, and as my friend and mentor used to say, it's not the expense, it's only the difference. And in this case, the difference will be well under 1% of the project cost. I hope the developer can see its way to acting responsibly. It has dropped in its lap a very feasible and responsible plan to relocate these animals. Thank you.
Thank you. Nicole Huntley.
Good evening. I hope I can write my scribble right here. My name is Nicole Huntley. I used to live here in Longmont and currently live in Broomfield, 3305 Columbine Court. I still care very much about Longmont, and I'm not here to speak in support of the prairie dog relocation, which, as a volunteer that works with these amazing animals, I'm definitely for the relocation. I'm here because I would like to find out why you people keep ignoring your constituents. Several of your constituents have contacted you on multiple occasions, and you continue to ignore them. Even Senator Gardner at least acknowledges when the constituents contact him. I find this behavior of elected official ignoring their constituents unacceptable, and really, it's rude, I think. I hope that you will stop this silent treatment and open up communication with your constituents, give them some of your time, and listen to what they have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan Kragerud.
Good evening, Mayor Coombs, members of council. My name is Ryan Craigrud. I live at 1512 Fleming Drive. Just still getting used to the new address. Anyway, tomorrow is Bike to Work Day, and I hope that all of you will get out on bikes tomorrow, whether it's, cruising around the city or maybe Gabe going to Ziggy's or trying to track down Brandon. Who knows? Anyway, so tomorrow's Bike to Work Day. There will be stations all across Longmont, and then folks who live here in Longmont going to Boulder or other places, they'll be able to find stations as well. There's drcog.gov where they can go and look for those stations as well. Plotting out my own course, I know that there's a breakfast station at Longmont United Hospital, and then also over at Johnston Chiropractic at Mountain View and Hover, as well as the Cornerstone breakfast, which is always out front here at the Civic Center and so forth. So with that, there'll be other things going on throughout the day. Chipotle is on board with bike parties and so forth. Oscar Blues is hosting things. And then left hand will also be a water station serving up Longmont's, as I like to call it, Longmont's extra clear on ice, probably, which is our water. And then tomorrow night we have bike night, which if you've never done bike night, tomorrow night would be a really great night to come out for it. We did this type of ride a couple years ago. There'll be approximately 100 people with cards in their spokes. So if you have never witnessed such a thing, maybe you just come to the park and just watch us take off. It's loud. Roosevelt Park, 6:30, by the flagpoles is where we meet. We are celebrating our 14th year doing bike night, and if all holds true, and being a numbers guy, I always count the number of people, and it looks like this season we're looking at breaking 20,000 overall riders for the entire 14-year period of bike night. So it's really something pretty cool, and I just want to invite you all to get out on your bikes tomorrow. So have a great day.
I'm reading a great book. It's called How Cycling Can Save the World. I recommend you read it. Ron Gallegos.
Ron Gallegos, 424 Kimbark. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm coming tonight to offer some initial impressions I received. The Downtown Development Authority is completing its parking census. This initiative involved a lot of interviewing, a lot of public meeting and whatnot. The initial readout is 80 additional spaces will be added. More importantly, there's going to be some consistency with some zones, because right now it's kind of wild out there. You've got zones that are 45, 2 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours, and this is on one block on Kimbark in the 400 block. So it's amazing out there. The initial impact, I think, is a little bit negative, though, for historic Eastside in the neighborhood, because what they're proposing is a shift in a lot of those parking spots from downtown into the neighborhood. And the neighborhood is very concerned that this will impact their quality of life. It will impact transportation, especially speed. And more importantly, there's a proposal in this initiative to put parking, all-day parking in Collier Park. It would be diagonal parking. So I guess I'm concerned that that's going to change the quality of life in terms of the park, its mission and its definition, because if it becomes a parking lot all day and all that traffic is going into the neighborhood, in and around the park, which is an issue already, it's going to be, I think, more severely impactful. There's also a question of safety, because this will begin to change the ground rules and the speed will increase on those neighborhood streets, which is a concern of the neighbors. Finally, let me mention, I was a little disappointed that the consultants and the initial public meetings had talked a lot about multimodal transportation, and as far as I can read from the presentation, not 3 feet of additional bike lanes have been added. In many instances, they will be taken away. So you're due to receive this on the 18th. I think there's some concerns that I think need to be raised with the DDA. I think they're going in a positive direction, But I think the issue is a more comprehensive issue, really having to do with transportation and economic viability downtown and the equity argument in terms of the neighborhood receiving that additional impact and the shifting nature of parking. Thank you.
Thank you. Kay Clements?
Hello, my name is Kay Clements. I'm at 10505 North 65th Street, Longmont, Colorado.
Excuse me, no one can hear. You have to speak right into that.
My name is Kay Clements. I'm at one.
It's not. Okay.
I can move over.
Many different mics.
My name is Kay Clements. I'm at 10505 North 65th Street, Longmont, Colorado. I'm here to talk about the prairie dogs. Other people have spoken quite completely about the issue. They've talked about the presentation by Prairie Protection Colorado of a plan. They have a relocation site. They have an established relocation professional willing to do the relocation. You have a statute that requires you to relocate the prairie dogs. You have a corporation developer that has no choice because you have a law, and there is perfectly reasonable alternative to killing the prairie dogs. And so I'm just here to reiterate that you need to follow the law and work with Prairie Protection Colorado and relocate that prairie dog colony. And you should say thank you so much to Prairie Protection Colorado because they have done the city of Longmont a great favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that ends public invited to be heard. City Manager, do you want to make any comments or anything? Or?
Yes, Mayor, Council. I wanted to talk a little bit about the prairie dog discussion. Based on some recent email activity, I found the name of David Lucas, and I've had a conversation with him. And Mr. Lucas did, in fact, indicate that they are willing to accept prairie dogs. What he also stated to me in the conversation is that he wanted to utilize, the developer needed to utilize the CPW process, Colorado Parks and Wildlife process. And that is a process with several steps that they must go through. So, examples of that is authorization from, in this case, it'll be the Jefferson County Commissioners. They have to present the plan to where ultimately CPW has to sign off on it. So based on that information, we've already been having conversations today, and we'll have conversations again tomorrow with Joni and the city attorney to determine the path forward. Again, the intent is to follow the code. And so now that we have that information, it's really how we take it, communicate it, and move forward. But that was a direct conversation that I had with Mr. Lucas.
Okay. So is this, why Jefferson County instead of Weld County? Or?
Well, it's the Rocky Flats.
It's Rocky Flats, okay.
Right, because you have to have the property. So one of the caveat, one of the requirements is that the property owner has to be willing to accept it.
Okay.
In this case, it's in Rocky Flats, and as Mr. Lucas informed me, it really lies in Jefferson County with a small portion in Boulder County, but this location is in Jefferson County.
Okay.
So we're going to be evaluating that information and then communicating with the folks that we need to, based on my conversation.
Okay. Yes. Councilmember Bagley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. So just want to point out that somebody during public invited to be heard, someone said we're ignoring constituents. I know for a fact that several council members have been in a conversation with the city manager, and this is a part-time gig. All of us, or most of us, have full-time jobs, but no one's been ignoring this particular group. And I believe that you'll notice that I just want to point out that the solution is actually coming, and it's follow the code as a result of you guys finding a place to put the prairie dogs. And now city staff will implement and follow city code, follow the law, and if in fact what we're hearing is true, the prairie dogs will be moved. That's what that meant, in case anybody missed it.
Councilmember Peck.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. So during this process, the developer cannot deny moving the prairie dogs, is that correct, per the code?
I'm going to let Mr. May answer that question.
So the code requires a relocation plan acceptable to the city. That's what the code requires. We need to see the plan, review it with our experts, and make a determination whether it's acceptable to the city.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Well, that's
Well, that
what I
ends.
asked.
Do you have any more comments, Harold? Or?
So I want to understand the question a little bit more. So if there is a viable, and Eugene, help me answer this. The code says shall relocate.
Okay.
If there's a viable relocation option, but then the developer has to then go with what Eugene stated. The developer has to present the plan and we evaluate the plan.
Okay.
What we know from the individual that we talked to at Rocky Flats is that they are willing to accept them, but it has to follow the CPW process. So CPW now becomes part of this entire process.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Christensen.
Okay, just to beat a dead horse or something. So we have the developer. The developer has sort of a plan, but Prairie Protection also has a plan. So how is this resolved as to which one takes place?
From what I understand from the attorneys, it's a developer's responsibility to present the plan and submit it to us. Is that correct?
Correct. The development code is targeted towards applicants, and all the requirements in the development code are the responsibility of the applicant. If Prairie Protection Colorado wants to implement their plan outside the code, perhaps the developer would be interested in doing that. But if it's the developer's obligation we're seeking to enforce, it's via the development code.
Again, that's why we're meeting tomorrow.
Okay, we've been going for almost an hour and a half. Why don't we take a 5-minute break? Okay, can everybody take their seats and we can resume our meeting, please? So now we're on to our consent agenda.
Mayor Coombs, the first item on consent is ordinance 2017-36, a bill for an ordinance making additional appropriations for the expenses and liabilities of the city of Longmont for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2016. Public hearing second reading is scheduled for July 11th. Item 8B contains three ordinances regarding South Main Station right-of-way. The first is ordinance 2017-37, a bill for an ordinance conditionally approving the vacation of a portion of the 2nd Avenue right-of-way located between Kimbark Street and Emery Street. Ordinance 2017-38, a bill for an ordinance conditionally approving the vacation of a portion of the 2nd Avenue right-of-way between Main Street and Kimbark Street, generally located within the southeast quarter of Section 3, Township 2 North, Range 69 west of the 6th Principal Meridian, City of Longmont, County of Boulder, State of Colorado. Ordinance 2017-39, a bill for an ordinance conditionally approving the vacation of a portion of the Emery Street right-of-way located between 2nd Avenue and 1st Avenue. All three of these ordinances, the public hearing and second reading is scheduled for July 11th. Item 8C is ordinance 2017-40, a bill for an ordinance amending Title IX, Chapter 9.4 of the Longmont Municipal Code on smoking in public places. Public hearing and second reading is scheduled for July 11th. Item 8D is Resolution 2017-57, approving agreements for a water tap and a sewer tap outside city limits between the city and the St. Vrain Valley School District. Item 8E is Resolution 2017-58, a resolution approving B-squared revocable permit and agreement for beekeeping operations and pollinator services at Golden Farms Open Space. Item 8F is Resolution 2017-59, amending the Phase 2 Energy Performance Contract between the City and McKinstry to terminate the requirement for future annual measurement and verification services. Item 8G is approve 5 capital improvement program projects, and item 8H is approval of an agreement for affordable housing funds for the Habitat for Humanity Rogers Road land purchase. And staff does not have a need to pull any of these items for presentation.
Councilmember Moore.
I'd like to move the consent agenda.
All right, the consent agenda has been moved and seconded. Let's vote. And that passes 6-0 with Councilmember Finley absent.
Mayor Coombs, your next item is, just a second, are your second reading ordinances. Ordinance 2017-35, a bill for an ordinance making additional appropriations for expenses and liabilities of the City of Longmont for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2017. And Teresa Malloy will briefly outline this item.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Teresa Malloy, Budget Manager. And what we wanted to do this evening is call to your attention that a change that we have made to this ordinance since you first saw this on first reading June 13th. So specifically, we're talking about the additional dollars that we're appropriating within the DDA fund. The source of those funds has been updated. So on page 2, line 5 of the ordinance, the $450,000 used to state that the source was charges for services, when in fact what it really is permit revenue. And so that was a change that we caught after that ordinance was presented to you on first reading. The amount has not changed. It remains at $450,000. Just the source of those funds is being updated. Don't have a presentation on any of the specific items that are within this appropriation, but should you have questions, we are here to answer those questions. If there are no questions, what we ask of you is that you substitute this revised ordinance, replace it, the ordinance that you saw on first reading, and then take your action on this substituted ordinance.
Okay, well, let's, should we accept the substitute ordinance before we open up the public hearing, or does it matter which order we do it in? Okay. Does someone want to make a motion that we use the substitute? Councilmember Bagley?
So moved.
All right, I'll second that. Let's vote to substitute the revised ordinance. And that passes 6-0 with Councilmember Finley absent. So now I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing on ordinance 2017-35. Is there anybody from the public who'd like to speak on this ordinance? I guess seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing on ordinance 2017-35. Councilmember Moore.
I move ordinance 2017-35.
Second. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Let's vote.
Oh. Councilmember Moore, you'll have to vote again. I didn't have it ready for you. And you, Polly? You'll need to vote again. Oh. Sorry.
And that passes 6-0 with Councilmember Finley absent. Okay, now is the general business section. So we're working with boards and commissions.
Mayor Coombs, members of council, I'm Valerie Skitt, your city clerk, and you have in front of you some ballots to appoint members to advisory boards. The first one that we're going to look at is the Airport Advisory Board. You have 2 unexpired regular member terms and 1 for 2017. So vote for 2 first.
Staples on there really well.
Councilmember Christensen voted for Ray Thompson and Scott Stewart. Councilmember Moore voted for Kurt Gatman and Mick White. Councilmember, let's see, Mayor Coombs voted for Marjek Unger and Mick White. Bagley voted for, I don't know if I'm saying this right, so correct me if I'm wrong, Marjek Unger and Mick White. Councilmember Santos voted for Tom Bunting and Ray Thompson. And Councilmember Peck voted for Kay Marsh and Ray Thompson. Nobody got 4 votes. We have 2 individuals, Ray Thompson and Mick White, that both received 3 votes. But I think we're going to have to revote. Vote for 2 again. One of those 2? Nope, all of them. You're voting for 2 individuals, so unless you want to appoint those 2 by motion. No.
Sure.
Okay, Mayor Coombs voted for Marjek Unger and Mick White. Santos voted for Ryan Thompson, and Mick White. Councilmember Peck voted for Scott Stewart and Ryan Thompson. Councilmember Moore voted for Marjek Unger and Mick White. Councilmember Bagley voted for Ryan Thompson and Mick White. And Councilmember Christensen voted for Scott Stewart and Ryan Thompson. Ryan Thompson and Mick White both got 4 votes that time, so we'll get the 2 terms ending 2017. Now you need to vote for 1 more individual
Councilmember Bagley?
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I changed my vote from Marique to Ryan because both of them had great interviews. But I just want to point out that it's hard to find, we always talk about nominating minorities to our boards. And Marique Unger is a pilot. She's from Argentina. She's highly qualified, and not putting her on this board, I think, is nobody on council should chastise anyone else if we don't vote for her. Vote for who you want, but we have an opportunity to appoint a Latina. The what?
You're putting in a good word.
Yeah, putting in a good word, but but she's totally qualified. She's a minority, and so. No, not yet.
So vote for one for the term ending 2019. Councilmember Moore voted for Marique Unger. Santos voted for Unger. Coombs voted for Unger. Bagley voted for Unger. Peck voted for Scott Stewart. And Christensen voted for Scott Stewart. Marique Unger will get the 2019 term for the Airport Advisory Board. She received 4.
Now I'm chastised.
Now we have Art and Public Places. We have 5 regular member terms ending 2020, and you have 3 individuals to vote from. So vote for 1, 2, 3. You can't vote for 5. There's only 3. So
Well, why don't we just accept the 3?
you can do that. That is your option.
All right.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. We got the 3.
Okay. So move on to Board of Adjustment. Oh, there's no applicants for that one. Board of Environmental Affairs. We have 2 applicants and, let's see, 2 positions, but one is an unexpired term ending 2018.
But one of the positions actually had more interest in being on the museum board.
Yes.
In the interview, so because of that, I move that we appoint Kay Bollemeyer to the regular term and maybe have to relook for the unexpired term.
Yes. Also, because I'm the liaison, I got a notice today of somebody resigning, so we'll have to find another person anyway. So I would agree with the mayor that it would be better to have Ms. Solomon on the museum board because she seems to be more qualified and more interested in that.
Did you just second that motion?
So
Yes. So moved.
The 2020.
Yes.
Second.
Santos.
Okay, let's, all in favor? Okay.
Okay, so we will appoint Catherine Vollmeyer and reopen this position, and if there's another one coming, the other position as well. Okay. No. Downtown Development Authority, we have 2 regular terms ending June 30, 2020, so vote for 2 of those individuals.
Nice one to try. You need to move.
There we are. Found it.
Councilmember Bagley voted for Jennifer Ostenson and Kirsten Pellicher. What is it? Pellissier, okay. Councilmember Moore voted for John Creighton and Jennifer Ostenson. Mayor Coombs voted for John Creighton and Jennifer Ostenson. Councilmember Peck voted for John Creighton and Kathleen McGoy. I think we should have a rule that applicants have to have really easy names to pronounce. Downtown, Councilmember Santos voted for John Creighton and Kirsten Pelletier. Thank you. And Councilmember Christensen voted for John Creighton and Kathleen McGuey. So John Creighton will receive one of the terms, and you'll need to vote for one of the individuals left for the second term.
I have something on it.
Councilmember Santos voted for Kirsten Pelletier. Coombs voted for Jennifer Ostenson. Moore voted for Kirsten Pelletier. Bagley voted for Kirsten Pelletier. Christensen voted for Kathleen McGuey. And Peck voted for Kathleen McGuey. We still do not have 4. So you can take one more stab at it, if you like. Then we'll see what you want to do if it doesn't work this time.
Vote seems oddly familiar.
We still have 4 ballots.
Yeah, we still have 4 on this one. Yeah.
Okay. Start with someone different here this time. Okay. Councilmember Moore voted for Kirsten Pelletier. Christensen voted for Kathleen McGuey. Bagley voted for Kirsten Pelletier. Coombs voted for Jennifer Ostenson. Peck voted for Jennifer Ostenson. And Santos voted for Kirsten Pelletier. Well, a vote changed, but it's still nobody got 4. So do you want to try it one more time, or?
Sure.
Okay.
Groundhog Day.
Actually, you know what I'm going to do.
Okay, Bagley voted for Kirsten. Moore voted for Kirsten. Coombs voted for Jennifer. Santos voted for Kirsten. Christensen voted for Kathleen. And Peck voted for Kirsten. Kirsten got 4 votes and will receive the second term for the DDA. Okay. Next is your General Employees Retirement Pension Board. You have 1 applicant, 1 individual, and 1 position.
Councilmember Santos?
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I'm kind of worried about this applicant.
Yeah, let's
debate this. He's not here, is he?
No, but I'm sure he'll
Brian
hear
Schumacher.
that comment tomorrow.
I move that Brian Schumacher gets appointed to the General Employees Retirement Pension Board.
A 1.5, almost second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor? He actually interviewed really well.
Never met him before.
Then Library Advisory Board, you have 1 position and 2 individuals who have applied. Please vote for 1.
Let's see. We're doing library?
Eugene's kind of slacking.
Okay, just a minute. You missed mine.
Sandy.
She tried.
Okay. Councilmember Beck voted for Katie Fuller. Santos voted for Jillian Peak. Moore voted for Katie Fuller. Coombs voted for Katie Fuller. Bagley voted for Katie Fuller. And Christensen voted for Katie Fuller. So Katie Fuller will serve on the library board. Longmont Housing Authority, you have 2 individuals and 1 term ending 2022.
Sandy, so good to see you.
Just a minute. I'm not finding it. Okay.
Is Leland done playing baseball? Is this season over?
Okay. I did.
We'll find out one way or another.
I'll vote again.
Councilmember Bagley voted for Chris Curtis. Christensen voted for Gay Coleman. Coombs voted for Gay Coleman. Moore voted for Chris Curtis. Santos voted for Gay Coleman. And Peck voted for Gay Coleman. Gay Coleman will serve on the Longmont Housing Authority. Master Board of Appeals, you have a bunch of positions. Let's see.
Yeah.
You have one
Santos?
unexpired regular term member ending 17 and one applicant.
Well, Bud came to the interview and was very, it's good to have people with credentials to be on Master Board of Appeals. So I move that Frank Bud Berdoni get the unexpired term.
I'll second that. All in favor? Okay.
MOPC Pension Board, you have one applicant, one term, ending 2020.
Councilmember Bagley.
I'd move that we appoint Beth Saurada.
All right, it's been moved to second. All in favor?
For the Museum Advisory Board, you have three positions and three applicants.
Councilmember Bagley.
I move that we appoint Brandy Coons, Amber Shipko, and Christyle Solomon as the three regular members.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Thank you. Transportation Advisory Board, you have two positions and four applicants, so you'll need to vote for two.
Yeah, there were.
Oh, 35. Softball? Oh. 2 more weeks of softball. Crazy softball.
Councilmember Moore voted for Abigail Driscoll and Devin Quince. Councilmember Bagley voted for Melanie Burgess and Abigail Driscoll. Coombs voted for Abigail Driscoll and Devin Quince. Santos voted for Katie Covey and Devin Quince. Peck voted for Melanie Burgess and Abigail Driscoll. Christensen voted for Melanie Burgess and Abigail Driscoll. So Abigail will receive one of the positions, and you'll need to vote once more for the second position.
Did anybody get?
Abigail got it. Yeah. So.
I'd like to mix them up a little bit here. Okay, Councilmember Santos voted for Melanie Burgess. Peck voted for Melanie Burgess. Christensen voted for Melanie Burgess. Moore voted for Melanie Burgess. Bagley voted for Melanie Burgess. And Coombs voted for Devin Quince. So Melanie Burgess will get the second position on Transportation Advisory Board. And I believe you're done. Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for final call. Public invited to be heard. Is there anybody from the public who'd like to speak at this time? All right, so now we're going to move to mayor and council comments. Councilmember Christensen.
I would like to thank Councilman Bagley for taking over 8 minutes of me in the dunk tank on the weekend. I am very grateful because it is not so easy to crawl out of a dunk tank when you're older. Anyway, the much-awaited kitchen store is on Main Street is opening up on Saturday, so I'm excited.
Councilmember Santos.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. Unfortunately, the Coffee with Council that is scheduled for July, I'm unable to attend, so I was hoping somebody would be able to pick that up. I believe it's the 22nd. So, okay. Thank you, Councilmember Beck.
Okay, is there any? Okay. Councilmember Bagley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I've got something that we need to talk about, and I thought about it a lot, and it's going to cause a stink, but what the heck? I think that I thought about talking with council members individually about this. I thought about talking with staff individually about this, and at the end of the day, I just figured, let's talk about it, because the only way we can have a public meeting is if it's public. And so, and it has to do with a meeting that Councilmember Peck had back in May, and I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Apparently there was a meeting back in May that lasted about 2 hours between yourself and the Pike apartment complex. Pike and Hover? It wasn't with the neighbors about the okay. So I was forwarded a couple days ago, I was forwarded an email chain that I at least think needs to be made public, and then we need to talk about what we do about it. And it was a summary of the meeting between Councilmember Peck and these constituents. And my first question is, was there a city staff member present? Do we know? No? Okay. So regardless of what happened or what was said, this is the impression that the neighbors got. And it was an email and a summary apparently written by Matthew Napier. And the first impression was simply, we spent a lot of time discussing how these projects and rezoning votes happen in Longmont. The best word that comes to my mind is dysfunctional. There seems to be minimal foresight, communication, planning, or thought involved. The council gets little to no information prior to their meetings and votes. Council members have committee responsibilities that are typically ignored. And so I don't know what was stated, but that I'm reading directly what the impression was they got. And so the question I have is for council and for city staff, is that accurate? Because we have a group of constituents getting the impression that we are dysfunctional, or at least city staff in this case is dysfunctional, and that they give no foresight, communication, planning, or thought. I disagree with that. Okay. The next paragraph, the impression they got was the city engineers and managers are buddies with the developers. Joan even said, quote, this city is run by the developers, end quote. The city managers and the council don't even do their own traffic studies. I would take exception with that if in fact that was stated. Next, on the issue of public notification, if we want the law changed, we must, quote, again, Councilmember Peck, get a new city council, end quote. Even though I'm running for mayor, I have 2 years left. Bonnie has 2 years left. And the only people running right now are Councilmember Moore and Councilmember Christensen. The next point, the next impression they got was that there was a statement made that the rezoning issue and the traffic issue have been conveniently compartmentalized. Joan tried to combine the issues prior to the rezoning vote, but Gabe Santos led the effort to separate them, saying traffic studies are the city's problem, not the developers. My question is, did that happen? And I mean, I can ask the rhetorical question, but it did not. And then Mr. Napier said, you can get a taste for how the meeting on Saturday went by reading our answer to my question, so what can we do? And then there's a list, apparently, again, I don't know what you said, but this is the impression that the constituents and neighbors got. Not all of them I disagree with, but the ones that troubled me were, number 2, write letters to our Ward 2 council member Jeff Moore, who is up for re-election in November. Run against him if necessary. And you are perfectly entitled to support whoever you want. I unequivocally think you're doing a great job. I support you, Councilmember Moore. 3, this is probably the most troubling. Delay the permitting process. Joan had a few ideas that I won't divulge here. My question is, what did you tell them to delay the permitting process when we as a council have instructed city staff that that should be a quicker process? Next, number 4, press the city for a comprehensive plan for affordable housing. There are already 2,000 units under construction, which is the number this study said was needed. Joan will be asking for traffic studies to be completed. That gives me the impression that on one hand you're saying we have enough, we don't need more affordable housing, we need traffic studies. So my question is publicly, again, that's not where city council stands. Another one that was troubling is 6, hire a lawyer. My question is, what was stated to give the impression that they need to hire a lawyer? And next, the email chain comes from Joan Peck at indra.com, which is her personal email address, which is against the sunshine laws. And then next, they say, hi, Joan, you made the point that the city has been delinquent on the 6 intersections and maybe also traffic studies in general. I guess the question is, what impact would a traffic study have on our situation? I checked with the city manager, and my question is, are we tardy on any or delinquent on any intersections? And the answer was no. The CIP, I believe, is scheduled for years in advance, and they're not delinquent. And so the email upset me. I would like to give a copy of the email to Valerie to enter into the record, and you guys can do what you want. But I thought that at the very least, city staff, when I met with, I had a similar issue that came up with my neighbors. And I've been on council for 5.5 years, and I have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to planning and traffic, et cetera. I had Dale Rademacher and Nick Wolfram show up and handle all the questions. And so I don't have anything else to say other than I think that regardless of what was said, regardless of what happened, we need to prepare a written response to this email that actually gets correct information to the citizens and constituents of that subdivision.
Councilmember Santos.
Well, I wasn't going to touch on email. I just remembered the Facebook question that was coming up in first call public invited to be heard. Using personal email is not appropriate. That's when Mr. Coe came up and asked me, was I on Facebook? I am on Facebook. But on my deal, it says this is my personal Facebook page. If you have city questions, here's my city email. I do not respond to Facebook requests. What is troubling, if this is accurate and has a personal email, that is breaking the law as far as sunshine, the Colorado Sunshine Laws. We have city council email addresses that I helped develop when I first got on council. I remember council members at that time were supposed to use their own email address and forward them to a box at one time. We worked with staff and got the at ci.longmont.co.us, and now we have the more convenient longmontcolorado.gov. This is troubling. If there's misinformation or, that is one thing. But to break the law in using personal email, that's a biggie.
Councilmember Christensen.
I think before we start pointing fingers and making accusations, all of us should have a copy of the summary done by one person of what he heard at a meeting several months ago. I mean, we need to at least have a copy of that to even be able to have a discussion.
Councilmember Peck.
So when HOAs ask council members to come to their HOA meetings, and ask them opinions and discuss things, we usually can accept that, can we not? Yes? I'm looking for advice. Do we have to have a staff member available when we are invited to come speak to constituents?
No, council members are free to do what they'd like as elected officials.
Thank you.
generally.
Thank you. We have all the time people coming up to PITBH saying things to us, about us, for us that are incorrect. And we sit here and we cannot talk to them or rebuke them or correct them. So the same thing, as far as I'm concerned, is with emails. Just because somebody writes an email to you doesn't mean the information in it's correct. It doesn't mean that the person who was in attendance said anything. And if you want to accept that, that's fine. It's up to you. But there's no way I went in and disparaged council. I wouldn't do that. When I first started, I have an email list that I write constituents and ask their opinion on different things that are coming up. And when I was first elected, Eugene said that there was a complaint about that because somebody put it on their next door. And he asked me, or it was Sandy, I can't remember, if I had a next door or Facebook, and I said I do not. What I do with my, do you remember that, Eugene? And I said, it's just an email that I have written for years to groups of people about what I do. How do you want me to vote? This is what we're doing. And if they post it to their next door, if they post it somewhere else, it's out there in La La Land. Anybody can do anything with it. And I did run that past Eugene. So at this point, I don't know that there was anything inappropriate.
What is the email dated? It's from.
It was in May. But legal counsel told me it was.
Not on your personal email. It's against the law.
Is that true or is it not? Can I continue to use for my email list that I have used for years?
Mayor and Councilmember Peck. So I believe it is city policy that council members are assigned a city email address to conduct their official business. When I first was hired as city attorney, we had a open records request involving council members where they used their personal emails or a non-city email, and it was very difficult for staff to review and comply with the open records request. The question regarding next door was what control do you have about that?
I have none.
And you have none.
Right.
Which I think is a separate issue than the use of personal email. But records made, maintained, or kept by an elected official in their official course of duties are public records.
So could you clarify the Sunshine Law for me then? Because I thought that was, if it's only one council person, then how could it violate the Sunshine Law, which means 3 or more?
Correct. For Sunshine Law, also known as the Open Meetings Law, requires that meetings of 3 or more, or 3 officials be open to the public, 4 be noticed and open to the public.
So meeting with constituents in a group is not considered an open meetings law? If it's just, I'm confused by that.
Less than 3 would be
constituents.
Council members together.
Yeah, just me and some constituents speaking about an issue.
Right. That is not a meeting under the Open Meetings Law.
So there was nothing broken there.
Not for open meetings purposes.
Okay. So I suppose if you want to take what was in that email as fact, you can. It's up to you. It's just somebody wanted to interpret what I said. That's they can interpret what I said. But Councilman Bagley, we did have a conversation about this on the phone, you and I, about this meeting. You called me on it.
Absolutely.
And I explained what it was about.
No, you did not.
Yeah, I did. I did. I did.
Councilmember Moore. Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I find it a little interesting that there was the impression that was this individual had, whoever he was, who had attended that meeting, that they thought that there was a reason to think that a mistake was made, or that the city didn't do their due process, or that there were issues that Councilmember Peck thought were not fully vetted prior to the ordinance coming to council. I'd like to remind everyone that Councilmember Peck actually moved ordinance 2017-26 at the first reading and voted for it on the second reading. So if she had not wanted to support it, she could have called it for reconsideration on a follow-up meeting. I really find this not a very good reflection on council as a whole. If we're trying to take down our city staff, which I feel are among the best we could possibly expect to find, and that they do their job and they follow the code. And as we all know, we have controversial issues that come to council, and decisions are made that are not popular. This council has had a record for respecting each other, and I would like to hope that these accusations are not fully vetted and fully representative of the meeting, but there's just enough there to make a big concern to me. And I just don't think that this is a appropriate way for this kind of behavior to disparage city staff and create issues like this that really aren't productive. I'm very offended by this even coming up, because I have never really thought that even if there were concerns from citizens, that I always defend city staff and the job that they do. So I'm just very disappointed. Councilmember Bagley.
Thank you, Mayor. And yeah, just to be clear, I did call you, and the question I had directly for what I was told was you disparaged me, and I just asked you straight up, did you disparage me? And you told me no. That was the extent of our conversation. And then this email was sent to me, and my name was not in there. You didn't disparage me. My concern was A, the use of the personal email, and B, the impression that was given. We need to fix it. That's all I'm saying. I think it would be appropriate for city staff to write a letter to Mr. Napier and address what these citizens are mistakenly believing, which is that they are dysfunctional, that they are in the pockets of the developers, that city council is complicit in that behavior or attitude, and having that out there in our city when it's perceived to have come from a city council member is, as Councilmember Moore said, disappointing and just not the right image that we want to convey. So I think that something needs to be done. And I think that the right solution would be to have city staff take the email, which has been provided. It's now part of the public record, and city staff can just deal with it.
Councilmember Christensen.
I can't remember when we have made so much of one person's opinion and the need to get the entire city staff to write down and draft a letter to this one person to explain how his opinions are misguided. I think it's we have a lot of people who come forth and give opinions every week, and sometimes they're of many different kinds. I feel like this is making a great deal out of something that was to me, to my mind, when citizens ask me to come speak to them, I would go speak to them. And I would find it very weird for someone to go out of their way to summarize at length what went on in a meeting and then take it to city council. I mean, write to one member of city council and then for that member of city council to read one person's opinion aloud and then demand that the city staff write them a letter. I don't understand what we're really quite doing here.
Nobody wrote me. I caught it.
You caught it? How? What do you mean?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Combs. Nobody wrote me saying, hey, this is what I feel. This is what I did was somebody said, hey, they handed me a copy saying, were you aware that there was a council member at a meeting and that this was the impression that she was giving these constituents? I read it. I went, holy crud, that's a problem. This isn't like some random person at Public Invited to be Heard. This is the representative of the HOA, and there's a group. I redacted their personal email addresses, but this is the group. This is the neighborhood and the entire group of the neighbors of what they're talking about and the impression they were given. This is not me saying, oh, I'm taking one person and saying, oh, yeah, let's just... No, there was a city council member, regardless of what was said, that they received a certain impression that needs to be clarified and rectified. And so that's what I think should happen. That's what we do as city council members. We communicate, we clarify, we help, we assist, and right now the information that was either provided or the impression that was given was mistaken, and that needs to be corrected. We shouldn't ignore it. I'm not talking about chastising or public censure of Councilmember Peck. I'm just saying there is a mistaken belief that city staff and city council are in the pockets of the developers, that we're dysfunctional, that we should be delaying the permitting process, and that needs to be clarified. That's all I'm saying, because there's a group out there that thinks that, and it's wrong.
I agree. Councilmember Santos?
Do you want to get back in? I'd be more than willing to.
So you're saying to me that this letter was just handed to you and it was drafted by the HOA board?
I don't know.
Oh.
Councilmember Bagley.
Thank you, Mayor Combs. It was provided to me by a person who lives in that neighborhood who's part of the email chain. They provided me the communication. It was a private email between Councilmember Peck and this group. And I got it. I'm bringing it to the light, and whatever council wants to do with it's fine. But I personally think we need to correct the information.
Councilmember Santos?
Thank you, Mayor Combs. We all, and I will agree, we all do get invited to go speak at Rotary clubs or HOAs. If what's in this, and I haven't seen it, but I think each member of council should get a copy. Not only of the public, but quickly get a copy. I would hope when we're talking to constituents, that we're not disparaging each other. There's kind of a little bit of a family group of, try to respect each other. We have difference of opinions and what have you. My concern is the use of personal email after 18 months of being on council. That is inappropriate. Our official business is done via our phone numbers or the emails that all the residents and sometimes people that live outside the city have. That's my concern. Without any recourse for a member of council to go read this email, now it's going to be public, but how many more? I've heard for years, I've been on council, almost 9 years, going on 10. Transparency in council. Show us the emails. Where's the transparency? And some of the members of council now. Where's the transparency in this? That, to me, is, regardless of what was said, except for I've always defended staff as well. They do the best job that they possibly can. But the lack of transparency in this is, I'm dumbfounded about if it's a personal email that was used for correspondence, some recourse should happen. I don't know what that is.
I'll quit. I'm done. So, I totally, completely apologize and kiss everybody's boots here. I'm very sorry that that person totally misinterpreted. I did not disparage staff, and that's it. If you would like to, if staff would like to write an email and correct whatever it is that's said in the email, I think that that probably should happen if you want to do that. Other than that, I think we should close this conversation.
Yeah, I do.
Thank you.
You know, just recently, I had some didn't have a complete, I had some of the information, but not all the information, and I made a statement to a constituent and asked a question, and then I originally, you know, a day later I found out I didn't have the right information, and I sent her a new email, and I apologized. I said I was wrong, and but, you know, unfortunately, a paper reporter took the first email without the whole string and, you know, really chastised me. So sometimes this email stuff, and that was all done on city email, by the way. But anyway, but, you know, email is sometimes a very poor communication tools, and sometimes people sitting in the same meeting hear the same thing and interpret it different ways. So, yeah, this really, you know, shouldn't be about, you know, what Joan said or anything, but it should be that someone's got some misinformation and the staff can correct it. And I agree that we should try to correct that information. Yeah. So, but well, yeah, I mean, you can't undo something. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. But I think, but anyway, I think we should move on.
So, I'm sorry, but is the council direction for us to receive that and respond, or is that not the council direction?
I think it is.
I need to hear from everyone.
Yes. Just clarify.
Well, we also need to all have a copy of that because...
I don't have one either.
Councilmember Moore?
I think it's going to be hard to really respond because there's really no recording of the conversation, and I mean, it's a matter of concern that the interpretation is this, and I'd like to, some of the things that sounds like are in that email would be very concerning to me as a city staff member as well as the city manager's position, that this word on the street is that city staff is not doing their job, not doing a very good job. So it's going to be hard to respond to this. I think that a response is appropriate, but I don't know how it comes together. I'm kind of at a loss. So unfortunately, this email, I just haven't seen it, so I don't know really how to frame it any different than, I don't know how we're going to respond, or how you would, but I could leave that up to you, I guess.
Well, I guess...
So I've seen 4.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Christensen?
As Councilman Moore said, I'm not sure what we're responding to because we don't actually know what was said because we don't, it was an informal meeting and it's sort of, you know, all hearsay, and I think we should not respond to it until we've all seen a copy of this. And I mean, you haven't seen a copy either. So
I totally agree with that. Yeah, maybe we
Maybe
can
we
give
could talk about
official
it next
direction now
week.
because we haven't all had a chance to read it. And Councilmember Finley's on here. Councilmember Moore?
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. Was at NLC Board of Directors meeting last week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and they're still maintaining their priorities as far as supporting cities in their efforts to retain the tax-exempt status of municipal bonds as one of their high priorities, trying to get broadband out to more communities. Their biggest concern right now is the budget and the effect of like CBDG money as well as home funds, and how we can work to keep those funds available to cities. So, if as just as a personal request, if you think of it, call your congressman and tell them what's important to you, whether you agree or not. Just make sure you communicate to your congressman and tell them that a lot of what our city does is because of federal funds, and we really need to maintain those things. So that's it.
Okay, I guess that ends council comments. City Manager, do you have any additional remarks?
No comments, Mayor, Council.
City Attorney, any remarks?
No comment, Mayor.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned.